Welcome to Be a Voice. This is Brick Carpenter, and I'm at Usula Media. Thanks for joining me today. This season, we've been talking a lot about people and shifting gears and doing things that are making themselves better and becoming better as an individual and for the community. Dealt with a lot of people that were through active substance use disorder and through their recovery at this point in time. We haven't really talked to a lot of people, though, outside the realm of those that were actually in the active substance use disorder. We tend to forget that addiction sometimes doesn't just affect the individual that is addicted. It affects everybody around them, ranging from friends to family to everybody. And it's really important to know that this disease doesn't just target one, it targets everybody. And today I'm sitting here with somebody that is through a lived experience of her own and also has taken her life and devoted it to service because of it. I'm sitting here today with the president of Angels in Motions, Susan Sheehan Fasulo, right?
Yep, you got it.
I got it. That was good. And
that was
in my
really
head, I was
good.
like, I'm
my
gonna
name
mess
usually
up.
gets butchered. Thank you.
I was going to mess that up. I was like, I'm going to mess up Fasulo. I'm going to mess up Fasulo. Because I'm thinking of like Fusilli, the pasta.
No.
So,
Do re mi Fasulo.
There you go. I got it. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Fred. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for showing up today on the coldest day of the year so far.
It's winter.
Yeah, it is.
We can't complain. We've had some pretty mild winters. So.
We have. And I said that too. I said, I think we tend to forget that we get babied and everybody's like, oh, it's so cold, but it's winter. It's supposed to be cold.
It's supposed to be cold.
But not this cold at the beginning of December.
No, maybe it'll be kinder to us on the back end.
Let's hope. Let's hope because we're already out of code blue now.
Yeah.
Until what, tomorrow morning?
I think we're into Wednesday at this point.
It should be because tomorrow's going to be even more bitter.
Yeah, because I called the city to find out where our warming centers are. But
oh yeah, what did they tell you when you called?
I actually called Councilman Lozada and said, could you please tell me where I can find the list? Because it's usually on the city webpage. Obviously, it's not there because we're all looking for it. And in calling the city, I got told it's not until the third day, so 72 hours in, will they post additional warming centers. So in the meantime, we're to use the 215 number that you call, outreach, and send people to shelters. But we are finding they're full. So
Shelters aren't even open right now.
No.
So once again, the city is playing a game of chess, and they're moving people around, and they're just using the individuals that are the most vulnerable as pawns.
So they have to stay outside for 72 hours before they'll open additional warming centers.
Love my city. I dislike the government.
100%.
I really dislike our government. This administration has made life so difficult, not just for us and what we do on the streets as far as our advocacy and our organizations, but life in general here in Philly. It's really caused a lot of turmoil.
Crime is down. I don't see where that's happening.
Yeah, every time they post crime is down, I laugh.
Because then, God forbid, there's another 2 or 3 shootings that you're reading about.
I'm not quite sure where crime is down. I wake up every morning and I'm seeing that there's more and more every night. So I got to see these numbers or where they're getting these numbers from because I don't think so. But, we could probably have an entire conversation on that.
Oh, exactly.
But before we do that, I introduced you as, a person that has had lived experience with substance use disorder, not necessarily on your own, but through your family. I mean, it could be on your own too. I mean, these are things that people peel layers back and we talk about. But also the fact that you run one of the longest harm reduction organizations in Philadelphia. And we're not just going to say Kensington because it's all over Philly. This is a Philadelphia. This is a citywide thing. You are now the president of Angels in Motion.
Proud title I hold.
Yeah, and you should because Angels in Motion has been around, I think, maybe like 2 years longer than Philly Unknown. How long has it been now?
We're going on our 11th year.
11th year, and we're going on our 9th year. So, and I knew that was like that 2-year gap because I remember when they were out there on the streets, they were like the only ones out there on the streets when they first started. And so Angels in Motion, tell me about Angels in Motion, first of all.
Angels in Motion started with a mom who went looking for her son who was in active addiction. And when she went looking for him, she realized the need of, what was needed out there. There was no one out there looking for these lost souls. And even if they were found, what did we do with them? Where did they go? Where did they go for treatment? Where did they go for support? There was none of that out there. So when Carol started Angels in Motion, she made it her mission, along with a bunch of other moms, Ronnie, Mary Lou, gosh, I can mention so many, Deb, Caroline, all of our previous board members. And they made it their mission to make sure that not another person had to live that way. It started out with just handing out juices, handing out Pop-Tarts. That's our little logo, Pop-Tarts. And they made these blessing bags, and it went from 3 or 4 moms to 20 moms, and not just moms, I should say moms, dads, and families. Then they got organizations involved, because obviously we needed funding to continue what we were doing. We saw during COVID how bad it really got, and I think every organization did. We were all, I will say, going back to COVID, I think that as terrible as COVID was, I think every organization at that point started joining forces. And I think that was probably the best thing, because I see a lot of these organizations out there, it's me, 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 what can I do? And you don't want to help the next organization. None of us are going to survive without that. I will tell you that right now, especially with this administration. But Carol started this organization. She spent 6 years with Angels in Motion, running Angels in Motion. Ronnie then stepped in to be the president. God rest her soul.
Rest her soul. And for those that Ronnie Sue Kaiser, she was a pillar in the community. She would be the first to roll up her sleeves and jump in when anybody needed help. And we just lost her last month.
Yeah, last month. Yeah. She was like nobody I ever met before. I reached out to Ronnie when I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter is 13 years in recovery. My second daughter is still in Kensington. And I just didn't know what to do. My daughter got pregnant. I still have my grandson. I've had him since birth.
Is this your oldest daughter's?
My middle daughter. My oldest daughter had a boy, and that turned her life around. She went to Florida, and she just never looked at another drug again. And I say this lately, it was just heroin and Percocet back then. And I think 100% you could get off of that. It's not Trank, it's not fentanyl, it's not metadetadine. And I'm grateful for that. But I reached out to Ronnie because with my first daughter, I could get her through it. You know, I met some people over in New Jersey when I lived there. I sent my daughter to Florida, and it was, boom, it was over. I mean, she got it. When my daughter got pregnant, she was doing Percocet and heroin. She went to Jefferson and got on a methadone clinic. And I will tell you that was the downfall of my daughter. And I'm not saying that MAT doesn't work. Let me make that clear. But for my daughter, she found new tricks. She found new people. She knew nothing about Kensington. The only thing she knew about Kensington is that my grandparents, when I was a little girl, owned a bar there. That was the only thing my daughter ever knew about Kensington.
Really? Your family's from Kensington?
No, my grandparents, I'm originally from Southwest Philly, and so is all of my family. My grandparents owned a bar in Kensington, and when I was, I'm going to say about 8 or 9, maybe 10, they sold the bar because the neighborhood was starting to go bad then. But that's the only thing my daughters ever knew about Kensington. They'd never been down in Kensington. I knew Kensington when you could shop on Kensington Avenue. Mm-hmm. I got all my dresses for the Al Albert show there. I mean, that was the place to go. But my daughters never knew what Kensington was.
It's interesting you say that about the Avenue. I mean, that's what everybody has always said, and nobody knows about that beauty of the Avenue that years ago. It was a destination spot. People would go there to shop. They would actually wear the nicest clothes, go down there, shop, stroll, and families will make a day of it on Kensington Avenue.
It was absolutely beautiful.
Can you imagine that? I can't wrap my head around that now. I mean,
no, because you walk down the avenue now, and it's like that. It looks like a third world country to me now.
You were a part of that, so you saw that at a different time.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And now you're seeing it at the present condition.
7th Street in South Philadelphia was the same way. 7th Street was all beautiful shops you could shop in. 7th Street now in South Philadelphia, from like a 5-block radius, is the same thing. It's the drug capital, as I call it, for South Philly. I laugh when people say that.
The Snyder area.
If you go, I'm going to say from maybe Shunk down to right below Snyder.
Yep.
And I laugh when people go, "Oh, South Philly's going to be the next Kensington." You don't have a clue what Kensington looks like.
I was down I with my pet sitting company. We service South Philly, and I have a client that lives down between Snyder and Oregon, off of like Wolf, like almost like crazy how it's getting there. So I mean, for you to say that, it brings things into perspective, and people don't realize that. People think about it and they think of Kensington, and that's the only place that drugs are affecting Philly. But it is in Southwest, it's in West, it's in South, it's all over.
There's an organization in South Philly. I forget what it's called.
Pumps at Lunch.
Unite South Philly or something like that. Anthony Giordano used to run it. I think Dank runs it now, and a guy, Craig Lord. And I have the utmost respect for both, and I've been friends with Dank for a lot of years. But he made it a point to put Angels in Motion in his mouth in a very derogatory way. And I said, if you're going to do that, could you please give me the opportunity to defend Angels in Motion? Because as a friend, I would do that for you. And then he like apologized to me via messenger. No. You publicly humiliated the organization that I run. So you will
Really?
publicly apologize for the comment that you made. I think people in South Philly, and I think you, like you're saying, in West Philly and Northern Liberties, they all think we live behind our doors. Nothing happens here. If Broad and Snyder has become worse and worse, and we're going to see that throughout the city because if the mayor is going to keep shifting people, where are they shifting to? They're shifting to other neighborhoods. So what was centralized, and we could help people, now we've got to go out into neighborhoods and actually find people.
This is all a redo of 2018 when they turned the Gurney Street tracks over and we couldn't find people anymore, and they scattered in neighborhoods in different parts of the city. Broad and Snyder was getting bad right before the pandemic hit, and it just grew to be worse. So I mean, it is hitting down there. But so and you live down that way, right?
I do.
You're in that, so that you see this.
I live off of Passyunk Avenue, like where all the restaurants are. I live right there.
So you see this changing.
It's sad because we never had packages stolen. We never had looking at your door at 2:00 in the morning and there's somebody sitting at the fountain with a blanket wrapped around them. That never happened in that neighborhood. And for people to think it can't happen, they're sadly mistaken. It's everywhere.
It's that misconception, not in my backyard. It's already in your backyard. Just turn around. Like I live over in the Roxborough, Wissahickon neighborhood, and I love reading on the things. Oh, these junkies coming from Kensington and shooting up at the train station and leaving their. And my response is, do you think that somebody's going to pick up in Kensington and come all the way out to Roxborough to use? Right. That's not going to make it to Roxborough. It's right in your backyard. And I use those words, the stigma words, because that's what people say. Mm-hmm. And that's like that ignorance in them. And that's what they think, that they're being affected by one area once again. And it's in our backyards. It's in our front yards. It's in our homes. But it's in your home. It was in your home. And you have a daughter that's still out there?
I have a daughter that's still out there. She will be 34 in February. I have her son. We've had my grandson since birth, and we've legally adopted him now.
How old is he?
He will be 7 in February.
And that's such an admirable thing to do. And I got to tell you, though, that it is not an uncommon thing in the world of addiction for grandparents to be adopting their children's children as their own because they want to give them a better life.
I will tell you, it was a very uncomfortable situation. Like obviously we all know about DHS, we all know about KUA, but I knew it from an outside. I heard it happened in, like you're saying, other people's homes. That was never going to happen in my home. With my first daughter, I was taken back. My daughter, intelligent, top of her class. When she came home and told me she was failing, I said, "You're failing what?" I thought she was failing at life, like something bad was going wrong. I didn't notice the change in her. Like that's how quick it took over. She changed boyfriends. Again, didn't think anything of that at 18 years old. And when she came to us and told us, I said, how, why? Like I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And some of it was trauma. They lost their grandfather, who they were, my ex-husband's father, they were very close to. There was the trauma of my divorce from my first husband. Never realized that affected my children because I remarried 7 years later. Wonderful man who's been very, very good to my children, but it wasn't their dad. And that's what they wanted. And I didn't see that. And I own that now. And I didn't see it when it was happening. Now that my daughters have gotten older and we have these open conversations, they'll go, well, do you remember when such and such happened? And I'll go, well, no. They saw it differently than I did. And for that, I have to live with that guilt, but they're open conversations now that I have with my daughters, and they're better parents because of it.
So your oldest daughter's in Florida?
My oldest daughter was in Florida. That's where she went. She went to Ambrosia when Ambrosia was a great place to go to.
Ambrosia was really good back in the day.
She still has a lot of the friends that she had from Ambrosia. They're a great knit community of kids. They all came from diverse neighborhoods, cultures, different backgrounds, religious backgrounds. One of them is Mark Werner, who runs Ripple Recovery. Love my Mark.
Tried intensive. Wait.
He's going to be coming down into Kensington at Miller in Ontario. Don't quote me, but I think that's where they're going. They're in Jersey now, but they'll be coming over.
He's the tribe guy. Right?
Yes.
Mark is the tribe guy.
He now is the CEO of Ripple Recovery. Fabulous guy. And he's a big supporter of Angels in Motion. But my daughter and him were in recovery together in Florida, and I always thought they knew each other from South Philly because they're both South Philly people. And I never knew until recently that those two didn't know each other until they hit Florida. I was like, wait, I thought you two knew each other from high school. He's like, no, we never knew each other. But they formed a bond, and he's just an amazing individual. And he's helped me, whether he knows it or not, to grow and to really think outside the box. So yes, my daughter got sober. My daughter now has 3 children, lives in Chalfont.
So she's close to home.
It's far. It's an hour away. It's a little too far.
Oh, I guess for South Philly, it's far.
Yeah,
For me to Roxborough, it's a little closer.
Yeah, it's an hour.
It's North
tough.
Wales, right?
Past
Chalfont?
North Wales. She's closer to Doylestown.
Oh, it's right.
So
It's in
she's like
between
Chalfont,
there.
New Britain,
Yeah.
and Doylestown. It's a hike. I was used to having my grandchildren right
Right
here.
there?
Yeah, so it's a little tough. My middle daughter is a nurse practitioner. Go figure. She just got done her master's maybe about 3 years ago. She's married with 2 children. And then when my youngest one always dabbled with smoking marijuana, wanted to be around the so-called cool kids in Jersey. They weren't really the cool kids. And the more we tried to rein her in, the more she rebelled. And unfortunately, she got into relationships that were not healthy. Then when she got pregnant with my grandson, she thought he was the best thing in the world. He was going to take care of her. He physically, mentally abused her. So that just set her further into her addiction. When she first got on methadone, she was good for about 6 months. And then little by little, we started noticing changes. And that's when I hooked up with Ronnie. I was behind the scenes with Angels in Motion for a lot of years. I knew a lot of people in South Philly. They would donate money. When they did their Christmas at Hissy Park, I would get like all the cookies and things donated, toys. I was behind the scenes. I never really knew exactly how much Angels in Motion did. And I kept that at bay because of my daughter. I didn't think that I could picture myself going into Kensington, because then it was real. To me, it was like, that's my daughter laying on the pavement. That's my daughter freezing. That's my daughter with open wounds.
And what you're saying is all reality. I mean, this is what goes on down there. You see people just laying around, whether, unconscious, conscious, whatever the case may be. The open wounds, you see them walking barefoot in this type of weather. And I know from my past experience what it was like on that end, but to be a parent, I don't get that. I don't know how you could feel. To empathize, I can't do that.
I think some of it is that you become disassociated, because for the longest time, I put up with my daughter's bullshit for the sake of my grandson. I always believed that she was going to turn around, but there was a lot of good people in her life. Rosemary Velez took, a liking to her. Shanika from Kirkbride took a liking to her. She always had somebody. Ronnie, in the middle of the night, would go get her and take her to rehab. But that then became, in my eyes, enabling and abusive, because she was abusing the person who was going to continue to help her, and the person helping her was enabling her. So, I had to have that conversation with the 3 of them, and they're like, but Susan, we see something in her, and it only takes one time. I said, but the problem now is she's using all of these places like a hotel. I'm cold for the night. I'm hungry for the night. And she'd walk right back out the door.
She knows how to work the system.
100% she knows how to work
And
the system.
I say whenever I have somebody sitting in that chair that understands it more from the side of being a person with substance use disorder, that we are masters of manipulation. We can manipulate somebody just by looking at them a certain way.
Yeah.
And turn that on. We could turn on the waterworks. We could do whatever it is. And that becomes something that some people see something in. And I get that. But
she
you
was
as a
the
parent,
baby of the family. And I think a lot of that played part, because, and even to this day, I say this, she is, out of all 3 of my daughters, the kindest, most giving soul in the world. And even to this day, in her addiction, she could be on the avenue outside of Sunshine House. I'll go into Martin's and buy her a sandwich, and she'll see somebody walking down the street and she'll give them half the sandwich. She is still like that in her addiction. And I say to her, like, the devil has not taken her soul yet. And I tell her that all the time when I see her. I said, addiction has not stole your heart yet. But there is going to be a time where nothing, absolute nothing, no one, a situation, your son, myself, will matter. And my mother took a spinal stroke a year and a half ago. My mother's still alive, let me preface it by that. But my mother and Natalie were very close, my youngest daughter. And she never came to see my mother. And I was angry. But she said to me, if I come there, it's real. And if I come there, the guilt that will swallow me, because you can't be there every day for Gigi because you're taking care of my son. She said, and I can't stand there and look at her and face her, because being on the street, yeah, it's happening, but it's not in my face, so it's really not real. And I never really understood that. It took me, like, I had to sit there and really dissect all her words to understand what she meant. And I find today, like, she's further and further away from us. Like, she would call once a week. At least I know she would be okay. Now I might hear from her every other week, or if I'm doing an outreach in Kensington, I'll see her, and she treats me like any other person that walks down the street. That's tough.
I was going to ask you, how is that when you're, it's tough enough for us to do the outreaches that we do and deal with the individuals we deal with, and to be able to separate that when we go home and be able to leave that, where we're at on the street, because it's very hard to take that home to begin with. We can't take all that home with us. It's a lot of weight for one person to bear. But you're now putting a very personal thing compounded on this with your daughter. How is that for you to be able to see her on the streets and know that you're just another outreach worker?
Because I've done what I could do. And it took me probably, I'm going to say about 2 years now, I'm finally comfortable in what I do and say to her. And a lot of that is Ronnie. Ronnie really, she sat down with me, she yelled at me, she cried with me, she talked me through a lot of things. And I finally sat for my CRS. She said, you have to do that. You have to figure this out. She said, because if not, it's going to eat you alive. And my husband would say, why do you live with so much guilt? I don't know that it's guilt. It's, I can grab anybody off the street and I can give you a handful of names of people that we have saved and who are still in recovery. And I can't get my own daughter. That's tough. And some of it is, I think what you're saying, master manipulation. She's not ready, so she's going to spin whatever's going on in her life at that point to place blame somewhere else. If I say something to her, and I'm digressing, I'll go back. My father was a heroin addict.
Okay.
And my father died very young. I was 21 when my father died. And I always said to my daughters, I was always very honest about alcohol and drugs, because, hey, it's in every family, and if they tell you it's not, they're lying. Or they're extremely blessed. And I always instilled in my daughters about alcohol and drugs. And my youngest daughter will say to me, she said, you beat it so much in our brains, and look where we turned up. It was almost like, you did this because you beat it in our brains so much. And I said, no, I tried to protect you from having such a horrible life. And, I say to her, the longer you stay out there, the worse it's going to get. She has been, I'm going to say since January, she's been in ICU at least 7 times. We had her up in Scranton. That was the best situation we had, because the doctors up there had no idea what tranq was, and it's not funny, but I can laugh at it now. I had a doctor call me on the phone, told me my daughter had overdosed in Pyramid Center to Geisinger. Geisinger says,
up in Poconos?
Up in Scranton. They're like, we just have benzos, and they said, we don't know what to do with this. So I've worked enough with Penn that I knew what to do with prosthetics, what to do with the fentanyl, with the fentanyl drip, what to do with a Dilaudid drip. So I talked to this doctor for an hour, and I know he's taking notes because he's asking questions. And I could just imagine his head spinning. And he's talking to another doctor. Britt, he did everything I told him to do. And then at the end of the conversation, he says to me, and where do you practice? And I said, oh, I don't. I'm just a mom.
Oh, you do.
He said, a mom? You're not a doctor? He said, I just did everything you told me to do. He said, if your daughter dies, I said, it's on me. I take responsibility for that. And you can tape that conversation. But he was amazed that outreach workers like yourself, myself here in the city, I'm not saying we know as much as doctors, by no means am I saying that, but we've worked enough around it that if we're in a situation, you can get on the phone and say, listen, here's what you need to do. It was amazing.
You're right. We do know more than a lot of the medical professionals out there, because they're not dealing with this.
They're not in the field out all day, on the street,
face to face, like a lot of us are. We're out there dealing with it, and the people on the streets are not going into hospitals or into clinics to get treated. They're getting all their treated in wound care on the street, which right now, as of this week, the city has pulled the plug on all those mobile outreaches and mobile clinics and any type of mobile harm reduction and wound care that can go on. But it's really interesting. When I was just an advisor for a summit recently, and we had 30 advocates from across the country come in, and we brought them over to our garden in Kensington.
Oh, nice.
And it was really interesting because they were all like, Britt, oh my gosh, what you do, the work you do on the street. And in my head, I was like, well, wait, you're all harm reduction advocates. Don't you do what we do here? And then I keep forgetting that
They don't have the supply we have.
they don't have what we have. They're not dealing with it. And, I think that sort of goes, but, we don't think about it. We're not like on a pedestal. We don't put ourselves there. So when that doctor said that to you, you're just like, I'm just a mom who knows what's going on.
I got up to Scranton the next day, and she was still, pretty out of it. And I'm going to say on the second, probably the third day, when they started titrating the prosthetics down, obviously they're not feeling so hot at that point, she tried to leave. So I talked to the social worker, came up. Now, we can't get anybody 302 in Philadelphia. It's near impossible. I was able to 302 her there, and I was so grateful for that. And I am not a proponent of forcing people into treatment, but my daughter would have been in the middle of somewhere she has never lived before. And I don't know which side of the railroad tracks would have been safe for her. So I had talked to the social work there, and I said, I will start by saying I'm not a proponent of forcing somebody into treatment, but she's going to die. My daughter was 85 pounds at that time. So we 302'd her, and unfortunately, after 3 days, she was allowed to leave, but she stayed. They got her onto Subutex, not even Suboxone. And then the boyfriend took a train up there.
Oh.
We all know how that story ended.
Yep.
And the same has happened for Penn. She has been in Penn's ICU. I can't even count how many times at this point. Back in May, she was arrested for shoplifting in Southwest Philly, taken to Broad Street, fingerprinted. She was there for 9 hours. I don't even know how she survived, how she didn't die from withdrawal. Someone found her, a young lady found her somewhere down by Pennsylvania Hospital, 8th and Spruce. She was a Jane Doe. They did surgery on her because she had a really bad infection in her arm. They sent her to UAP, and she was a Jane Doe for 5 days before I got a phone call. And when I got there, her memory still to this day is still not good. She could tell you something, you and I could have a conversation, and 10 minutes later, you'll say to her what you were talking about, and she kind of just shakes her head at you. So she definitely suffered something at the hands of the Philadelphia Police Department of allowing her to be there for 9 hours, but I have no way of proving it, so I'm not going to make that accusation. If I had a way to,
we all know right now from the past experience over the last year that there is no type of triage in the prison system here in Philadelphia. To be able to work with people coming in that they're scooping off the streets or snatching off the streets or bringing off the streets and bringing them into, even if they're detaining them, to realize that if they're detaining them only for a few hours, that withdrawal is going to kick in, and that's precipitated withdrawal. We're not dealing with heroin anymore.
no.
We're not dealing with
poison.
fentanyl anymore.
It's poison.
We're dealing with some potent shit that we don't know how to get our arms around at this point in time, and they're not dealing that. And knowing all this, Susan, how do you sleep at night?
I put my grandson to bed at night, and I know that I want a better world for my grandson, and that I don't want my grandson to ever have to live that life, and that's what gets me through. I'm not a very religious person, but I do believe there's a God. I do believe that we're all going somewhere when we leave this earth. And in the beginning, I screamed, I cried, I yelled, like, why? Like, I'm 60 years old. I can't raise a child all over again. This was not supposed to be my retirement. I go to Florida every winter. That's my fill my cup time. And now, when he turned 5 and started kindergarten, we couldn't do that anymore. And a little bit of that made me sad. It was like, he enjoyed that. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should homeschool him. And I'm like, no. 60 years old, I'm not homeschooling anyone. But to answer your question, that's how I put him to bed at night. And I look at him and a lot of the other children of women and men that we have helped or that, we have lost, we're active in their lives. And you look at them and go, they deserve a better world. Those children are going to be who is our next generation, and they are the children who need to be healthy, both mentally, physically, to be able to proceed in life. I talk to my grandson. My grandson goes to blessing bag parties with me every month. My grandson knows what an unhoused person is. My grandson knows how to administer Narcan at 6 years old. I get a lot of dirty looks for that, and I'm okay with that, because if he needs to save your ass, guess what? He can.
Somebody's give you a dirty look because a child knows how to save a life?
Older people do, and I get it. It's the generation that, so you talk about drugs in front of your child?
They need to get over it.
My grandson knows that his mother is sick. for the longest time, we have him in therapy, and that's what we'd say. She's sick, and when she gets better, she'll be home. Well, sick to his age now is you have the flu, you have a virus.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's time for that next level of conversation. He only knows his mother looking sickly. Like, he doesn't know the healthy, beautiful girl that she was. The girl, as I called her, my bougie girl. My girl had every Louis Vuitton, every whatever. I'm not a whatever. What I'm trying to think of, Coach. She had all that. She had a car. She had 3 jobs. She had her shit together. But then a man always came along, and she allowed that man to control her. But my grandson never saw that person. So when he looks at pictures on my wall, he doesn't know that's his mother. Now, if you show him a picture of what she looks like today, he knows that's his mother. His mother is his mother, and my husband and I are mom and dad. And I had a hard time when he started calling us mom and dad, because to me it was final then. It was like, she's not coming back. And we're going to have to move forward. COVID hit, so we couldn't do the adoption. COVID finally was starting to go away a little bit, getting better, and that's when we finally started talking about adopting him, doing family profiles, and that's when it got real. And that was when I sat and talked with Ronnie at length many, many nights, and she said, now's the time to figure out what you're going to do. And I said, well, he's not going to live with someone else. I mean, don't be ridiculous. She said, do you understand what you're taking on? I said, probably not, but my family's everything to me. My grandchildren are around my neck every day. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for my grandchildren and my children. So if it means we have to be parents again, that's what we have to do. And she said, are you positive? I said, if I wasn't, I would have never went to the hospital and brought him home. I knew there was that chance. Did I pray that it would turn out differently? 100% I did. And I still pray. Mm-hmm. I pray that one day he will have her in his life in whatever capacity she's able to be in his life. But at this point, that can't happen, because I don't want him to see his mother that way. I want him to remember her for the little bit that he does remember her, when she comes back home. I want him to remember that.
And like I said, this is a very common thing that a lot of grandparents will deal with. I mean, my sister-in-law, the same. She adopted her daughter's, son. So
there's not a lot of support for that, I will tell you.
There isn't. And I deal with a lot of parents. A lot of parents call me to talk to me and sort of work their way through things. And, for me, the empathy isn't really there for parents, because I don't understand what they're going through. I understand, the addiction side of it and stuff, but not how they're feeling.
Right.
So to be able to hear this, but also hear it from so many that the stories are so similar and they're so parallel to one another, mm-hmm. that this isn't unique. This isn't special in the world of addiction. No. That when you are dealing with a child that has some type of substance use disorder, you've got to deal with everything that comes along with it.
I remember my KUA worker, and I say all the time when people talk about the horror stories of DHS and KUA, we did not have that experience. I mean, I say God really was with us, because every one of my social workers to this day I am still in touch with. They have pictures of my grandson. They know what my grandson does every day. His child advocate, James, they all showed up for his adoption. They didn't have to. I mean, they didn't have to be in that courtroom. When we turned around and looked behind us, we had an army behind us of people that we would have never met before. And I tell everybody it was a blessing, and people go, what do you mean? That's a horrible thing to go through. I said, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a blessing. My grandson is in my life, in my family's life. I have my middle daughter. God forbid anything happens to me, my middle daughter would take my son. He would, my grandson, and he would stay within our family.
He's your son.
He is my son.
He's your son.
And I protect him like he's my son.
And you had him since birth?
I've had him since birth.
You picked him up from the hospital and brought him home. You were raising a child all over again.
I thought my daughter was sober when she was pregnant. And when I went to the hospital, and I will tell you why, because when she went into labor, she was at the clinic. I got to the hospital. They were allowing, she had the baby quickly. He was underweight. They allowed her to breastfeed. As soon as the baby comes out, you put the baby on, the baby can latch. I, at this point, think she's still sober. The next day, I go up to the hospital, and there's suits in the room. And there sure are not doctor suits. There are not lab coats. And somebody asked me who I was, and I said, well, who are you? They said, we're asking the questions. I said, no, you're not. This is my daughter. Who are you? And she pulled out her business card, and it was DHS. And I will tell you, I fell to the floor. And I said, there has to be some kind of mistake. My daughter's on a methadone clinic. I was told this was legal because I had never had any experience with methadone before. So I'm thinking it's methadone in her system, and there's a mistake somewhere along the line. And my daughter is still sticking to her story. And now the nurse who allowed her in the delivery room to breastfeed is now in the room. She's now being called on the carpet. She believed my daughter as well. I feel bad. The nurse she paid a consequence for that. Because it was her responsibility to make sure this baby was safe. Thankfully, my grandson did not require medical intervention. He did stay at Jefferson for roughly 12 days, and it was more so because he was underweight, and they were scoring him, but he never scored high enough that he needed to be medicated.
Was he in the NICU the whole time?
No, he was only in NICU for 2 days.
Oh, okay.
And the reason, again, we had to keep him there is he was so underweight. He was only about 4 pounds when he was born. And even when we brought him home, that's when signs really started showing. Like, I had called the pediatrician. I said, he won't stop crying. He won't sleep. He won't eat. Like, I just didn't know what to do. And when we went to the pediatrician, she was like looking at his records, and she said, technically, he should have been medicated at the hospital. It would have made your life a little bit easier. I said, well, I'm grateful he wasn't. I can take the sleepless nights. My oldest daughter came to help me a lot because there were nights where I would just scream. I said, I need a break. And my daughter would, pick up the pieces for us. But yes, he came home with us and never left.
So, and this is your second husband?
Yes, we're married 24 years. We've been together almost 30, so 24 years.
He's seen your children grow and raise. So he's affected by this as well. And to have a son in the house.
And my husband's 10 years older than me, so he's a trooper.
Heck yeah, and I think people need to hear about that there is support.
He's my saving grace. I mean, we've had, I won't lie, it's not been pretty.
I'm sure.
All these years with the girls, more so my youngest daughter.
Your middle daughter, no addiction there? There's only
no.
The two.
She did stupid shit through high school.
Well, we all did stupid shit through high school.
No, she never. She grasped quickly, what smoking pot could do to you, what drinking could do to you. She saw it was in her family. Mm-hmm. She left high school, went on to Camden County Community, because at that time, Helene Fould had a nursing school. So you could go to Camden County for 2 years, much cheaper, and then head over to Helene Fould. Her second year, Helene Fould closed. So she was scrambling to try and find a college that would take her. LaSalle actually picked up the pieces for a lot of the nursing students at Camden County.
Oh, nice. So that was only a short program there then, after your 2 years.
Yeah, she did 2 years at LaSalle.
Right.
She got waitlisted for Jefferson, but she wanted the college campus. So she went to LaSalle. Did not live on campus, so I don't know what she needed the campus life for, because she wound up getting an apartment in Abington, and she lived, had her own little apartment and never came home after college. She got that.
She's like the ideal child to a lot of people.
She's very independent. She's very strong-willed. She did the right thing, so she wound up going to LaSalle, and then she did Jefferson for her master's.
And she's close here. She's still in the area?
She lives in Center City.
Oh, okay. So she's close to home.
I don't like it, but yeah, that's where she lives.
and your husband just has been
he's been a godsend.
A saint almost.
He never had children of his own.
Okay.
So when we had my first grandson in the house, when my oldest daughter was getting herself together, they're very close. I mean, she lived with us till my grandson was about 7. He'll now be 12. So when he left, it was tough. We both looked around the house and went, this isn't normal. What do we do with each other? And then along came Ashton. So God didn't give us much time to be able to figure out what to do. So there was probably a reason for that. But it's been a rough road, I won't lie. The last 10 years have been extremely rough. A lot of ups and downs. We both questioned a lot, were we doing the right thing by my grandson at our age? Would he have been better off adopted with a younger family? Could they do more for him than we could? Sometimes I think we were selfish. Sometimes I think maybe he would have been better off with some 20-something-year-old, that could bop around the park with him and do baseball and all those things. I can remember the first time we signed him up for T-ball, the looks that we got when he said mom and dad. It was like, they're looking behind us, and I was like, yeah, we're the two old jackasses on this field with this child. And that goes to what we're saying about support. There's not support out there for grandparents. Caroline, who is an outgoing board member, she has her grandchild because her daughter died. And her and I commiserate a lot together. She said, don't you feel like really dumb when you're sitting at this table and all these young parents are sitting around and they're all talking about, who went to the beer festival, who went to a concert, and we're like, can I have my Geritol and just get in bed by 8 o'clock tonight and pray this kid is in bed by 8 o'clock tonight? But in Philadelphia, there isn't any of that. In Delaware County, the Shevlin Foundation has opened up I don't know what it's called, but it's a support group strictly for grandparents. Yep. And it's really needed here in the city. And when you talk to people, it's like nobody has the desire. I don't say desire. It takes money. We all know that to do those things. But it would be nice even if you came out with a Facebook page. Somebody come out with a Facebook page, grandparents supporting, raising their children. Yeah. Pink Elephant. Pink Elephant's another great one who supports a lot of families of children with addiction. But when it comes down to grandparents, there's nothing. And luckily most of us grandparents, obviously we've had children, so we've been around the block a couple times, but it still doesn't prepare you to take on that mom and dad role all over again. My biggest thing is I found I couldn't give my other grandchildren as much time as I used to. I was there for every soccer game, every, dance recital. I can't do those things anymore because not only do I have my grandson, I have my mother who needs more care, and my father who needs more care. My husband had a triple bypass and a mitral valve replacement in August, so he needs some care. So it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy year. Well, I should say a year and a half. But I do. I go to bed every night grateful.
And on top of all this, not only are you managing the home with your husband, your son, your grandson, your mother, your father, all your daughters, yourself, you decide to step into this role of president of Angel in Motion. This isn't something you've been in for quite some time. This is brand new to you.
It was.
What the hell, Susan?
I think after I accepted that I couldn't change my daughter, and spending a lot of time with Angels in Motion behind the scenes, there were a lot of things I complained about. So I got what I deserved.
I can't picture that.
Yeah, and I did. I complained to Ronnie a lot. I would say, well, I don't understand. Like I started doing outings, and there were questions I would have, and I would say, well, why don't the leads know about this? Well, that's a board matter. I said, well, that's bullshit, because we're the ones out here. I want to know. Especially now that I'm in the role I am, there are things you keep close to the cuff, and there's things you can explain. So I think the more I complain, Ronnie knew the fire in me. I will never fill her shoes. Nobody will ever fill Ronnie's shoes. But she got sick, and no one knew about that. It was a while before she wanted to share that with anybody. And the board took me out for dinner. I should have knew right there and then. It was a very, very nice dinner. I said, something's up here. And they said, Susan, how would you think about becoming the vice president of Angels in Motion? I said, well, what does that look like? And they started telling me, oh, hell, I can handle that. And I have a full-time job at a law firm. I can handle that. In fact, my legal background will really be helpful. And then Ronnie got sicker. So the transition that would have been a 6 to 12-month transition was really like a 3-month transition. I got handed a checkbook and said, here, this is what we do. Here's a list of recovery houses. And I said, okay. And then, what about insurances? And like, I'm the legal person, so I'm thinking of all these things. Oh, don't worry about that. The treasurer takes care of that. I went, I can't operate like that. Like, I'm a control freak. I have to have everything in front of me. It's definitely been a learning experience, and I'm incredibly grateful for our outgoing board because they are still, I can pick up the phone and they will still answer questions. I'm not sure if we also have a chapter in Atlantic City.
Oh yeah, Susan.
Much bigger than
Susan and
much
Lisa.
Bigger, much bigger than we are. She's been a sounding board for myself. She has taught me a lot.
Susan
has taught me an incredible amount of work.
She's pretty awesome.
She has an office I shouldn't say an office, a wellness center down there.
Yes.
And the amount of work that gets done down there is amazing, considering here in the city you can get everywhere. You can jump on a bus, you can jump. There you can't. You got to get in a car and drive. And
she has a support down there from the sheriff. The sheriff has a very active department down in the Atlantic City area. They have that Hope One.
Yes.
And it's a huge program, and for AIM in Atlantic City.
Well, she worked for them at one
right.
point.
She worked for them for a while. So they do that. So Angels in Motion, y'all are huge. How many members do you have actively?
Volunteers.
Yeah, roughly
in Philly.
Yeah.
Couple hundred.
A couple
I
hundred.
would say a couple hundred.
Couple hundred. There's some organizations that can't even get 10.
Yeah.
You have a couple hundred. You have people that are that run every aspect of it for you. Like, how do you manage all that? You now are managing all these people that are your volunteer coordinators, your outreach person, your inventory person, your this person, that person, and you're doing the outreaches yourself. And Susan, you're running around helping every other organization get what they need.
Yes. It's important that we do that. We should all do that.
We do. We should. We do.
Yes. That is, it's key. Margot, for instance, she called me a couple weeks ago. We had, and I didn't even know it was one of our angels that we'd helped years in the past, passed away. He was raising his 2 daughters. Daughters are now with mom. How's mom going to do Christmas? Margot says, here's a guy's number, call him. That's who's taking care of it. I said, well, how did I get handed this? And she said, because you'll get shit done. I said, okay. I called him. Him and I are now talking to each other. Long story short, all the gifts are bought. Donations have been made. Everything will get dropped off next week. And then there's Danny Gilman, who can't help Danny. You have to help Danny. So now we have sponsored a family through Who Can We Help? And then there's the Kensington Project with Dawn McGinnis. You've got to love Dawn McGinnis.
I have not had her on. I've had Margot. I've had Danny on the show. I have not had Dawn McGinnis on.
I'm going to make that happen. She's phenomenal. She lost her daughter. She's raising her grandson. Her grandson is a year older. I think he's a year older than my grandson. We did a pool date this summer because her and I just don't have time, but we try and make that happen. Same with Raquel. We did like a bingo for Leckerman Foundation. They did a kids bingo, so we dragged all the kids up there. It's important to do that because at any given time, any of us could fall. Angels in Motion, we went through a tough time. I mean, when we got told 2 weeks before we were waiting for scattergood money, it wasn't coming. After the very cold winter we had last winter,
we were all devastated.
Tripled the amount of money that we spent during the months of, I'm going to say December, because that's when it really got cold, December through March. But I didn't care because I said, you know what? The other money's coming in March. It'll be okay. We'll figure it out. And then when Scattergood sent us that email, I went, oh, we're in big trouble. Like, we tripled the amount of money we spent. Had I known, it's just like home. When you know things aren't coming in as well, you're going to scale back. I believe that somebody will provide for you. And I still said that. I mean, when we were really destitute, Casey came into our lives, and I knew Casey for a couple of years now. She had been involved with our blessing bag parties. Unbeknownst to me, she has been a fundraiser coordinator in the past with other organizations. She runs her own wellness coach business. She has a little girl. I don't know how she does what she does either, but she made shit happen. I mean, in 3 months, we were okay. Wow. And I just sat back and I went, damn, how did she do that? And she still continues to do it. I mean, I'll call her and say, I need this. Okay, no problem. So obviously I've put her on the board. She is now our fundraising chair. We've added some people out of Atlantic City who have a lot of grant writing experience, have a lot of board experience. It's about putting yourself in the right places, getting to know people, networking, seeing what other people are doing, see what's working, what's not working. It definitely has been a huge learning experience for me, and I still continue to learn. I reach out to people like Raquel, yourself, people that have done this just as long, or if not longer than us, people who have lived experience, because that's the one thing a lot of people say to me, well, how do you know you don't have lived experience? You're right, I don't. I don't know what it's like to live in your shoes, just like you don't know what it's like to live in mine. But together, we'll figure it the hell out.
And I think it's bullshit when people say that, because you do have lived experience. You've lived it with your children. You lived it even as a child. You carry that with you, even though you don't remember a lot about that. You've lived it. I can't relate to your lived experience.
And I can't relate to yours. And I say that to people all the time.
But we learn from each other, and we come together, and we make it happen. So you spend all your time advocating for those that are in need, for the most vulnerable. You spend all the time advocating for your son, for your family. What do you do to advocate for yourself, Susan?
I fill my cup with vacations.
You do?
As I said, before my grandson started school, we would spend 8 weeks down in Florida.
Love it. Where in Florida?
In not Port St. Lucie, I'm sorry. Fort Myers, right? That's in Port.
I don't know. Florida. I used to live in Sarasota. I know Fort Myers.
Love it there.
Yeah. Englewood below. And
we can't do that now, obviously, because he's in school. So it's like long weekends. Like we'll probably jump on a plane sometime in January for like a long weekend.
Now, will just the two of you go away and you'll have somebody watch your son? You'll take your son with you?
No, he won't. He won't stay. He's a homebody. He's a homebody.
Oh, so you go?
No, we all go. The three of us go.
But you mean, so the three of you will all go together?
We'll all go together.
All right, nice.
Yeah, we don't. We are planning in October for our 25th anniversary to go away by ourselves. And I'll be honest with you, but I don't know how that's going to go. One of us might wind up in the ocean because we've not done that in a long time. My husband and I spent probably close to 15 to 20 years every year going to Cozumel by ourselves. It's an island that I just absolutely love. I hate the way they've commercialized it, but there was a hotel that we just found by accident, and we went back every single year, and we're talking about doing it this year. And I went, I don't know how I feel about leaving him home. I never left my children home when we vacationed. I never believed in that. I'm a firm believer of when you become a parent, it's your job. Okay, when you retire, then you do what you want. But I can count on my hands how many vacations I took before my kids were 18 that I didn't have them with me. And I feel like I have to do the same thing for Ashton. And I've said that to my daughter. I said, I will promise you one thing. I will give your son the same life that you and your sisters had. He will never want for anything. He will probably be spoiled. But I want him to have that same life. I want him to have the innocence of being a child as much as you can be innocent in this world because it's so different. But to fill my cup, I like to read at night. I do a lot of reading. I spend time with my mom.
What do you read?
I like to read probably more so true stories.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah. Not true. Are you a true crime person?
A little bit. I will tell you, like when the what's that? Long dark. What was the one?
Oh yeah. I know. Long Bright River.
I read that book.
One?
I could not watch the series.
Series wasn't good.
I couldn't watch it. To me, it was real. Reading a book, whether it's true fiction or not, it's not real to me because I'm reading a book. But when I put the series on, I will tell you, I was a mess. I shut it off. I was hysterical crying. It's like that's when it really hit me with my. I'm like, damn. Like, why did I do this?
See, so interesting because you found it to be so real, and I found it not to be so real because I was on the other end of the spectrum and watching that. I didn't see that, but I understand now what you're saying. That relationship that. On the other side.
I shut it off.
Wow, that's crazy.
But I took the book to Florida with me, and I read it in 2 days. It was. I just couldn't put it down.
Well, and she's a local author.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So,
but I do a lot of that. I mean, at nighttime, that's what I'll do to calm myself down to read. I love the beach, and I don't have to be by myself. I can be with my grandkids. I'm a beach person. I spent my summers in Cape May as a child, so I wanted my grandkids to have that. I will be honest that you can't afford it anymore. It's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh,
crazy. We started vacationing in Europe because it's cheaper. I got my daughter 3 years ago. We all went to Italy.
It's cheaper to take a plane to Italy and stay than it is to stay for a week.
We're doing
at the
that
beach.
this year. We're going to Portugal. I am not paying $5,000 to stay in Wildwood. I'm just not.
For a week?
No.
Yeah. It's
and
ridiculous.
hope it don't rain.
It's ridiculous. And it's Wildwood. It's still Wildwood in the end.
My grandkids have never been on Wildwood's boardwalk, and that makes me sad.
Really?
No, I will not allow my grandkids up there.
Well, you know what? I get it. It got bad over the years.
It's not the way we live. It's not the way.
It's not when we were younger. It's totally different, you know.
No, you could walk the board. My grandparents would drop me off at the boardwalk, and then I would call them at 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, come get us.
You can't do that now.
You can't do that anymore.
When I walk the boardwalk up there and I leave my place, I get a little bit, I have to look around because the kids, I get that. But if people want to support Angels in Motion, how do they find you on social media?
Social media, we actually just created a new, Casey, we created a new page because our Angels in Motion page was very out of control. People were posting, don't get me wrong, they were very, people would post like a quote of the day, but the problem is people who wanted to get involved couldn't because they're scrolling through, 100 different posts that are on there. So we created a new page, Angels in Motion Philadelphia. Okay. And you will see everything that we do on there.
Facebook is Angels in Motion Philadelphia.
Angels in Motion Philadelphia.
There's an Instagram page that's
Don't ask me what that is because
I know it's
you'll know what I won't.
AIM_Philly.
There you go.
AIM_Philly for Angels in Motion
_Philly.
Just so you know, now you remember that.
Thank you. It'll be in my
got
head.
it. You're the Facebook person. I get it. And you get a lot of information on there, so they can find you on Facebook. They can find you on there. Are you accepting active volunteers to come out and do outreaches with you?
100% we are. We ask that if you want to do outreach with us, you have to at least have 12 months of sobriety. You must be over the age of 18. If you have children that want to get involved, please bring your kids to our blessing bag parties. We have them 3 times a month. One is at St. Dominic's in Frankfurt. I guess that's Frankfurt, Tarsdale, right off of
Bridge.
Is that Frankfurt? I don't know. what
Yeah.
that is. Mayfair, I guess it is.
They're all the same to
At
me.
St. Dominic's Church. At 7 o'clock the first Tuesday of every month. The third Monday of every month, we have another one in Hatboro, Horsham.
Oh, wow.
And the second Wednesday of every month, we now have one up in Sellersville in Bucks County.
Your website. What's your website?
Our website is angelsinmotion.org. That much I know. I'm good at that.
If not, I was going to quick try to look it up for you.
Email address is angelsinmotionpa@gmail.com.
Nice. So, and all this information you can find on there. They could donate on there, clothing,
Yes.
everything, Amazon wish list and everything on there.
Amazon wish list is not up there yet.
No.
And a lot of that is because we have not had the need for that right now.
Just get the
We are
donations.
getting that much in donations. We put a call out this year. A client of mine for the firm that I work with donated 3,000 book backpacks to us. Every single blessing bag party this month, we are making 300 to 400 backpacks a piece, and everything that is being put in there has been donated
It's
by
amazing.
the community.
It's
Community
amazing.
is everything. Community is everything. They have donated. I'm trying to think. There's hand warmers in there. There's hats. There's gloves. Well, the hat we still have to have from Hat Factory. I'm sure you've gotten some of those. Were you in on that, the Hat Factory last January?
Remember that? I couldn't make it that morning. I had to go to work. I was so mad. Tons of stuff came out of there.
We still have a whole storage unit. When I tell you black trash bags filled to the ceiling.
We could use stuff if you got them. We'll switch. We have that
Yes.
clothing to switch
I
with
got
you.
clothes. I'll bring you hats.
We'll switch. We're going to
Tons.
switch. That'll be a good switch there.
And backpacks. I have backpacks if you want some backpacks.
Amazing. We'll do that.
We can 100% do that.
So, if you could tell a parent out there that is going through what you've gone through and what you're still going through, but there are parents out there that haven't grasped that situation like you have and have, what would you say to them?
If your gut tells you something, it's right. Every situation's different. You have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in tough love. Some kids need tough love. Don't feel guilty if that's the road you have to take, because you have to protect your inner peace. You have to protect your home. I found myself not doing that in the beginning, and my home was robbed. My checkbooks were taken. There were legal actions. It was ugly. But I was told, never, you can't use tough love. That's the most horrible thing you could do to a child. I don't believe that. But again, every situation's different. What I tell a parent is if you suspect your child is doing drugs, they probably are. And the earlier you catch it, the better off you are. You turn a blind eye to it, and you're going to live decades, possibly, of heartache. If you suspect your child is in need, call us. 215-501-3357. My phone is on until 10 o'clock every single night. I'm usually up till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still checking text messages. Don't let my husband hear that, but I usually am.
And I can attest to that. She's the only person that I will talk to at 9 o'clock at night on the phone.
And I'm still on the phone.
Yeah.
I tell people, everybody is different. I think it's the same philosophy in life. If you can lay your head on the pillow at night and be okay with yourself, then you've done the right thing. Yeah. And when I tell parents that, when I do speaking engagements, they said, it's different, it's my kid. I said, it's not. You have to, and again, protect your inner peace, everything in your home. That's your sanctuary. If you walk into your home and you're on pins and needles and you feel like the glass is breaking underneath you, you're doing something wrong. And if your child is creating that, your husband, your nephew, whoever, your niece, whoever's causing that in your home, they got to go. It's toxic. And you can't help somebody. It's just like on the airplane. They tell you put your oxygen on first. Well, if you can't do that, then you sure can't help them. And it took me a lot of years to learn that. And again, Ronnie helped me do that because I really thought I was doing the right thing. I was letting both of my daughters, when they were in their active addiction, stay in my home, and thinking, okay, they're doing their program, everything's okay. And then when I started drug testing them, I went, this shit's still going on, like right underneath my nose. And with my youngest daughter, it was tougher because she was the baby of the family. She now had a baby, what was going to happen. And she was very young when she started using drugs. But I finally had, my grandson came into my life and she had to leave. She was not allowed to stay in the home. That's DHS's rules. My mother took her in for a little bit of time. My aunt took her in for a little bit of time. She had plenty of opportunities. So, I try and tell parents, your children will work you and work you and work you. You know your child better than I do. So I'm not going to tell you to do tough love. I'm not going to tell you not to let them live in your home. But what I will say to a parent is, if you gave your child $10 and they came home that night because you're allowing them to stay there, and the next morning you walk in that bedroom and they're gone, who are you blaming? You can't blame the drug dealer. You gave them that money to go there. And that's kind of resonates with parents. My daughter has a sister-in-law who has a young child going through this, and it's been a couple years now. And she said, I will tell you that's what resonated with me, because I can't tell you how many times he said, oh, I'm going to hang with my friends. I'm going to the pizza store. And she handed him $10. Did he come home with the pizza? No.
Never.
He came home high, and then you dealt with the aftermath. And I think for city people, I think it's easier for us because it's in our face every day. Mm-hmm. When you live in a suburban community and there's different expectations because you live in that white picket fence world, mm-hmm. it's not going to happen to their kids. They tend to be more enablers than people do here in the city. And I found that with parents, like when I talk to parents in the counties as opposed to parents here in the city. My best part of the advice, like I said, if you can lay your head on the pillow at night and go, I'm okay with myself, then you've done the right thing.
I love it. I love it. I love the fact that you said that go with your gut. It knows what's up at all times. Mm-hmm. Protect your inner peace. It's so hard to do that, but you got to really look at that.
You do.
And if you can lay your head down at night and know that you're going to get a good night's sleep and you did everything right that day, life is good.
Yeah.
And
if
Susan,
it's not, then something's wrong.
You are a blessing. You really are.
You.
Your attitude is amazing. I love working side by side with you.
Thank you.
At first sometimes you're just a little intimidating, but that's okay.
That's Ronnie's fault too. I'm blaming everything on Ronnie. Well, I love you there, girlfriend.
You get shit done just like she did too. But thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for sharing your story. Your story is so important because so many times people don't know that they're not alone, and you just let people know that they're not alone. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And remember, check them out, Angels in Motion Philly. Susan, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. And everybody out there, remember, whatever it is you stand for, be a voice. This is Brick Carpenter on Uplifting Media. Have a great rest of your day.